Hello everybody, it's Altamir here, and we are going to be going over an article that was shared in a Discord that I am a part of, and I just thought that this thing was really cool. It was a really good article. It's Elder Scrolls Online Subclassing Q&A. Power level will go up some, but we're fine where it is. So let's just dive right into it. Again, this is for the video game The Elder Scrolls Online, made by Zenimax Online Studios. If you're unfamiliar with that game, it was dropped in 2014 by Zenimax Online Studios, which is part of the kind of like the Microsoft umbrella now. They were owned by ZeniMax Media Inc., which they're separate companies. Another studio, which you may be familiar with, that's part of this, is Bethesda Game Studios, which is where the Elder Scrolls originated. They kind of work together. ZeniMax Online Studios and Bethesda kind of works together in terms of like ZeniMax will go to them with, okay, so what if we did this? What if we did that? And Bethesda just gives them the okay to do that. So let's just dive onto this article because this year they are really changing a lot of things. Some good, some I'm a little worried about. So let's just dive right into this. This article is apparently with studio head. Let's see. I want to make sure I get this right. Afterward, key developer. Well, we'll see who it's with. I think it's with Matt Ferrer and Rich Lambert, but we'll see. Oh yeah, Matt Ferrer, Rich Lambert, and Susan Cath. I think Susan Cath was one of the people that came from another studio that was closed. And you remember that article came around, I think it was a year ago or so, where X Studio, a part of ZeniMax Media, was closed, and it was their people were distributed through. Some went to Elder Scrolls Online, some went to, I think, Bethesda, some went to the new game that Zos is working on. I think that's where Susan Cath came from. Okay. Let's see. Why did you decide to change from the annual chapter model to the content pass? And Matt said, with the chapter mode, we did a lot of great content over the years, but most of it hit in June. It was a big moment, and it didn't leave a lot of time for the team to make content over the rest of the year. What it really did is it locked us into a cadence that made it so we couldn't experiment as much as we wanted. This will free us up so that we can put time into doing things like Cyrodiil Champions test, for example. Some time out of the content pipeline and move it into how we can make the game better. Okay, so this answer kind of it's one of the ones that kind of drives me a little crazy because it didn't all hit at the same time. You know, they've always had they had the year-long story, and then they had, but I get it where I guess the meat of their product hit hit in one at once. Okay, it hit in June. Okay, I mean that I can kind of give them, and it's pretty evident that it did not give them time to work on Cyrodiil because they've been doing tests on Cyrodiil since like I want to say like 2019 or something, and they've never really seemed to, like, we'll do a test and they'll be like, okay, and then like a year later, hey, another test, and it's like it just kind of seems like they never really had time to do things. So right off the bat, you can see that this cadence, and probably in turn with being unionized, probably help with this cadence a little bit, meant that they can experiment, and maybe we're seeing some good things from that, right? Maybe. We'll have to see. I mean, ZeniMax is still ZeniMax sometimes, you know what I mean? But let's get into the next question, though. Will subclassing work with my current character build? Yes, Rich says. That's the most important part of subclassing. You don't have to re-roll a new character in order to do it. You just have to take a class that you already have, or a character you've already spent all this time and effort with, and roll out new abilities. So it's basically you're getting new skill lines. Alright, so next question here. I'm not going to comment on every single question. I probably won't go over every single question. I'm going to read the question, and if it doesn't really I don't really feel like talking about it, then I'll skip it. Okay, how will the seasonal pass affect ESO Plus? Not significantly, Susan says, because you're still getting access to the things that traditionally you got access to as part of ESO Plus. It is just a way to group the content over the entire year kind of into one package that you can pre-purchase. Okay. We do lose quarter 4, I think. I don't really know because they keep on saying that we don't lose anything, but if they remember, quarter 4 as part of the year-long story was ours. We got that for free as part of ESO Plus. So if we still get quarter 4 as part of ESO Plus, then they're right. Otherwise, no, they're wrong. Sorry, I had to drink some soda. Gotta wake up. It's early for me. Anyway, for me. Sorry. What's your favorite thing about the new Solstice song? I don't really care about that. Is subclassing a part of the base game update? It is, yes. It means it's free. Okay, for those of you who didn't watch my entire video, on the direct, it means it's base game update means we're getting subclassing for free. Will subclass abilities be weaker versions of the original ones or the same? They are the same. The only penalty that you have is that those abilities cost twice as many skill points. That was a trade-off in order to give you more flexibility, I guess. I mean, that works fine with me. I don't know. It's pretty easy to get. I mean, the only time you're really struggling with skill points is if you are also a master crafter on your main character. That can mean, probably you don't have a ton of skill points to screw with. Otherwise, a lot of us have like 70, 80, 90 skill points left over. So bring it on. How will you balance the flavor of the month with these seasons? I don't really care about the flavor of the month. I mean, I'll pause it here. I mean, I'll stay here if you guys want to read that answer, but whatever. Will subscribers of VSO Plus have access to the content pass with their active subscription? Well, there's the content pass, and then there's ESO Plus. Well, that's pretty obvious. Sorry. Okay, this is the question I've been looking for. How do you plan on balancing subclassing? For example, taking Arcanist and using Templar Beam. Will that be way overpowered? This is the question here. That was the biggest concern when we first started pitching this. In particular, the dungeon team were like, don't break our trials. Yeah, right? I can see Finn being like, what the shit are you talking about here, bro? We've done a lot of testing on that, and yes, power level go up some, and we're fine where it is. We haven't done anything to dramatically nerf things or reduce a lot of power from the abilities. We want this to be fun, and we want players to experiment and make things cool. Now, again, I'll quickly say that in terms of like what classes are really popular, everyone seems to go to ESO logs like it's the Bible. And I think that's a little wrong, because those things, scoreboards, are meant to they are a very small part of the game for the score pushing elites, people who do the hard modes and they want the fastest time, or they want the no death and all the hardest part of the game, the absolute most difficult thing you can do in this game. They strive on that, and it's a play style, and I respect it. It's just not for me. Now, for those people, yeah, you need a particular build. You just do, and it's fine. It's just that play style, but it's only about like 2% of the game. The other 98% of the game, you can play whatever in the hell you want, and I think a lot of people forget that. A lot of people blame ZeniMax for stuff, and I'm like, they didn't tell you to invite only Arcanists to your normal trials and boot everybody who has perfectly fine DPS. They didn't tell you to do that. They didn't tell you to blindly fall meta instead of just getting it done. So that's one thing I think needs to change about the game. Okay, how are we going to access the subclassing feature? This is also a really good question. There's a bit of friction in terms of how you unlock it. If you are someone like me or Matt who's played Elder Scrolls Online forever and have multiple level 50 characters, then all those skill lines are unlocked, and the only thing you have to worry about is leveling the actual abilities on your character. If you are a player that only has one character, then you can go through a number of quests and train those skill lines in order to be able to use them. We thought of a bunch of different ways to make this as widely available as possible. So there you go. That's the answer. That's the answer I kind of needed from Direct. Because it's like it was clear, but it wasn't. I'm slow in the head. You gotta forgive me for that one. So if you're like my friend who only has like one character they focus on, they're gonna spend a lot more time getting other skill lines. Whereas me, I have 18 characters. So yeah. Okay. Can you further explain the new content pass? I don't see how that's difficult. So you can read this, but basically how the content pass works is instead of just buying the chapter and getting just the chapter, you're buying you're buying the content through the whole year. That's what it is. So before this year, again, when you purchased the chapter, you just got Q1. You just got this Q2 DLC. That's it. That's all you got. Now you buy the content pass, you get Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, and they're yours. That's what you're buying. And it doesn't affect the ESO Plus because we still get Q1 and Q3 dungeons. I don't know about Q4 though. That is yet to be seen. How much will the content pass cost and what will include? Um, it costs like I think there's two different versions. I think, but don't quote me on it. But it's not cheap. Let's just say that. Skip no. Okay. Oh wait, no. They're with the Withering Wall event be will the Withering Wall event be a real-time experience shared among all players similar to how Fortnite events are usually conducted? Sort of. Rich says the entire server is working towards the goals of the event, and there's a number of stages. I'm not going to go too deep into things, but there's a number of stages that you work towards. You can help set the camps, you can fend off attacks, and then the last stage you actually go to the wall area and bringing it down for the entire city. Okay, how does subclassing maintain class exclusivity? I knew the question was going to come up, and we say fuck you. One of the core tenets of subclassing is that you can't change your original Elder Scrolls Online class. You have to have at least one skill line from the original class. Okay, I mean that they've been saying that, and I'm perfectly fine with that, unless the fact that I'm Necromancer in my class blows hot, fucking hot. I'm just not even gonna finish that sentence, mainly because I choked on a burp and it was gross. You're welcome for that fucking description. No, I mean I get it. It's perfectly fine. Necromancer's shitty, but that's fine. How you introduce the existing systems for Elder Scrolls on, but who come back for a while? Okay, they're talking about the returning shit, which is a really good question. Because the heroes return stuff is interesting, and I'm kind of curious how it works. So the returning player stuff, the welcome back stuff, is very near and dear to my heart because when joining the team here at ZOS, that is exactly what I was. I have played the game numerous times since launch. Coming in as a returning player, these two got earfuls from me in the first few months. This is Susan, by the way. In the first few months back, where I was pinging them and going, "Oh my god, I don't know how to do this, and this is really frustrating to me." I'm really excited about the system. As a longtime MMO player, not just for ESO, I fall in love with the games that I've played over the years, and they all feel like home to me in some way or another. Coming back to a game, it's like slipping into a book that I'm familiar with. It is comforting, and I like to make it as easy as possible for the people who come in. The answer to the actual question is that It is part of the whole welcome back experience. That's not really a fucking answer. Jesus Christ. We found numerous things like golden pursuits that have a great way to bring people to content that may not have experienced before. That's happened since they've left and returned. That is just one of the ways that plays into the system. I think it's going to be really cool, and it's based on the player as well. Hmm. Not really explaining it completely, but whatever. Here they talk about the UI rework, which, whatever. If you want to read it, you can. Just pause the video. Starter Zone's get a facelift. I've covered that. They did. I'm more curious if they're going to do the other zones. Okay, we have a cadence we're trying to hit to make other zones in the game look better, so they are going to do other zones. Okay, and talk about Cyrodiil Champions. Rich is the only one that answered that one, so Matt tapped out of that question. Like a bitch. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It was a fundamental test for us. Orders of magnitude better. We covered a lot of that with Brian's answers, so if you can, if you want to read that, I'll leave a link obviously below if you guys want to read this. You know, for the answers that I skipped, or maybe you want to, read it not like you're an idiot. You can go ahead and do that. Going to Solstice Zone, how does the size of Solstice compare to regions added in previous chapters? Does the change in cadence mean there may be years but no region added at all? Maybe. It's comparable in size to previous chapters, it's just split in half. So that answer kind of is very telling to me. Does this change in cadence mean there will be years with no region at all, which means there'll be years where maybe they just focus on, I guess, what in the ESO direct they called remix seasons, where they just go over what's already in the game, and we might not get any new stuff at all, which I think, I don't know if I like that idea. You know, I don't know if I like that idea. I mean, you can't forget about what's already in the game, don't get me wrong. But you have to do it right. You know? I don't know if I like that. Sorry. Any further about the new trial? You guys can pause and read about the new trial. They already covered dungeons. Coming about subclassing of build diversity. Will subclass let you select skill lines or pick skill by skill? It is skill line wise, and then you can pick the skills within that skill line. You can't cherry pick the best skills from each line. Wait, what? I'm gonna read that answer again. It is skill line wise, and then you can pick the skills within that skill line. Kind of like how you're leveling it. So you gain the entire skill line, but you don't have to unlock every skill. Will subclassing worsen the issue of hybrid changing and scribing, undermining the distinct identities of the classes? There's going to be some of that naturally, just because you're going to be able to have multiple skill lines that aren't from your class. But that also very much fits with the mold of our game, and it fits Elder Scrolls. So I mean, let's be real here, which is play whatever you want. Yeah, what Matt said, it is what Elder Scrolls is all about. It is. I mean, Elder Scrolls is about playing how you want. I mean, in Skyrim, you could do whatever you wanted. So, this just makes sense to me. How will subclassing avoid the problem where everyone equips certain powerful abilities, such as raiding and oppression? Players will be concerned about this. We're concerned about this as well, Rich said. That goes back to meta and shaping up the meta. In our internal and external tests, we have found that there's a huge amount of diversity in terms of builds and skills and whatnot. What some players think works and is the only way to do it isn't necessarily the right way. And that just goes back to what I say in terms of like everyone just kind of blindly following the meta, you know. And even the people who even the people who invent the meta, the top tier guys, right? That doesn't mean that you can't get good scores with non-arcanists. You know, you can. It's just arcanist makes things, just you get the content done faster. I remember somebody I was watching it said, I don't remember who it was, but they were end gamer and they said it's at a certain point in terms of DPS, at a certain point, all you're literally doing is just getting the content done faster. That's it. It's so if you're talking about just completion, then you can do anything with whatever in this game. The only time you need particular builds is when you get to that higher up shit. So, sorry, I got a text. So, I mean that's something that people need to understand. Okay, you mentioned for new Elder Scrolls Online players who want to start their journey in a game that has been there for 10 years. Can you explain? Wait, I kind of like zoned out halfway through that question. You mentioned plans for new Elder Scrolls to start their journey in the game that's been. I don't think I care about this answer. You guys can read it. Just pause the video, obviously. What's the future for companions and crafting? Will we see new recipes? I don't really care about them. Oh, we're not getting companions this year. That's right. Oh, that's crazy. They didn't mention anything about companions this year. Oh, wow. Oh. Have they? I mean, maybe we'll get one in quarter four. They just haven't mentioned it yet. Oh, wow. That's something I didn't think about. It didn't even hit my. It didn't even hit my brain that. Oh, they didn't even mention companions at all. Okay. Why is it? Why is now the right time to continue the base game story? I don't know, because they ran out of shit. Could you provide more information about returning characters, specifically about Necromancer? No, that's a story spoiler. But the one oh, come on. So that's the interview there. There's a lot of things that they didn't touch on and that weren't answered either in the direct and this Q&A that kind of I still have questions about. What about the combat? When is combat changing? When are the big combat changes coming? Now I have a question about companions. I mean, are you guys getting away from companions for a while? You know, we talked about years where there was no region at all. Okay, well, how are you going to keep players who have done all the content? How are you going to keep them engaged? Some people don't. When it comes to revisiting the old zones, some people just don't want to do that because the old zones are just okay. I've been there, done that kind of thing. You know, I'm not saying it wouldn't be great to revamp them. I'm just saying some people are just like, I want something new, not something old. You know, so there's a lot of questions that they still haven't answered. New questions now as well. But I thought this article gave a lot of information that a lot of us kind of needed, and I hope it really helped you guys answer some of your questions too. You know, and if not, you know, look around. You know, on Reddit's and even stuff like this. I mean, I only tripped over this because you know, some guy put it in Discord. This is the perfect time to Google like the Elder Scrolls Online subclassing interview or something like that, and you'll probably find some interviews because they are doing interviews right now. But for whatever reason, and then this really drives me up the wall. For whatever reason, ZOS doesn't share this information, and I think it's fucking stupid. You know, they should somewhere on, in their official website or the forums or Reddit or tweeting about it or Blue Sky, whatever, say, hey, we just finished up with an article with this, over here. Go check it out. Here's a link. You know, is that really that fucking hard? Do they not have a social media manager that can just go and type like fucking 80 words and do that, and put, press copy and paste? I don't know. It's something that doesn't seem that really hard to keep track of, and it's like, oh, they keep it on us to go and search for this shit. It's like, no, that's part of communication. That's the part of communication that you guys have always been bad at, where us players have to go and search Google if we want answers that maybe you already answered. We want answers to questions that you already answered. That's what I meant to say. So I don't know. I mean, it's something that they still need to work on, and it doesn't take much more than just sharing a link saying, "Hey, we did this interview about subclassing in the new zone. Go check it out." Boom, done. Like, it's not that fucking hard. But anyway, I'll leave a link in the below if you guys want to go check out this article for yourself. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out my other playlists. I have an Elder Scrolls Online playlist you guys can check out. Also, if you enjoy Enshrouded, I have an Enshrouded playlist you guys can check out. So go check out those. I really do appreciate you. Don't forget, oh, I already said that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have fun out there.